Oh, Ford, by the way, Ford's coming up with a.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm back today after a little hiatus, and I'm back with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Hey, it's going okay. Been to the dentist and probably have to go again, but that's another subject. I'm high on Tylenol right now.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah. Well, I apologize. I didn't do a couple of shows last week. I was in Florida. My setup there wasn't great. My connection wasn't great. Didn't have a good spot really to shoot from. And then to top it all off, the place I did find where I could broadcast from was out on the patio, and then the weather was terrible.
Of
And
course.
the funny thing is when you combine wind and humidity, it feels about 20 degrees cooler than the same temperature here in Nebraska.
Okay.
And of course, if it was, 55 degrees here in Nebraska, I'm probably not going to sit outside, right?
No.
Anyways, and that was kind of the situation. It was, cooler and windy and stuff like that. It wasn't, all that warm where I was at in
typical
Florida.
sunny Florida weather.
No. Anyways, but that's all right.
Next time, find yourself a broom closet. I watch.
Yeah.
I am amazed. You've got podcasters that have nice sets, and everything,
Uh-huh.
and then you have others that use the sort of artificial digital set behind them, and then you'll see these guys who are fairly high profile, political analysts and things like that. Man, they're broadcasting from everywhere. It's like,
Oh yeah.
I watched one today, and clearly he's in a hotel somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can just tell by the look of the room. It's the typical motel hotel setup. So
I've got a guy that I attend this set of conferences on a regular basis during the year, and the guy who founded the chain, he holds conferences all over the world, and so he'll always do little side visits to places where you'll go hiking or whatever, and he'll always shoot a video talking about, here's how we did our latest deal or whatever, but he'll be holding out the selfie stick and he'll be showing you'll just see the background. I mean, in one case he had Mount Everest. He was actually on Everest,
wow.
shooting the thing, and he's done a lot of them from like really cool places. It's like, you might have the Coliseum in the background or, or something like that. Of course, we had the one guy who did the show with us. He was at the palace beside the Coliseum.
There you go. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he was having bad connection issues.
Yeah, he was having bad connection issues. Yeah, the palace didn't get good good connections.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyways.
Hey, what are we talking about today?
Let's talk about what we were talking about. You're saying that the Trump administration is looking to gut a lot more of the. Now, when you're talking about gut, are you talking about the entire Inflation Reduction Act?
No.
Is that more what we're talking about?
No. So far, all I've read is that they're planning on taking away things like the $7,500 tax credit, clawing back whatever money can be gotten back from what the Biden administration has invested in factory expansions and batteries, and and in particular the charging network and things like that.
Well, I think there's a lot of problems with that. I could understand phasing out possibly the incentives, phasing them out quicker, but instead of being 7,500, make it 5,000, then make it 2,500 the next year, something like that. But the couple of the big ones are examples. Some of the guys who are in the used EV business. When they stop having that $4,000 tax credit, they're going to stop selling 100 used Teslas a month, right?
Yeah.
So that's it's certainly going to hurt the market. I think you're going to see some unique and unexpected consequences from that. I think some of that needs to be phased a little differently.
Yeah. Well, I would tend to agree with you. We can't obviously be doing that all the time. I mean, when you look at what
Mhm.
initially what California did, for example, when they were encouraging people to shift over to, at that point, it was even hybrids. They were doing
Mhm.
everything they could. And so what they would do, they'd pass out these basically stickers that allowed a single person in a car to drive in the multi-occupant lane, what we call the HOV lane. But you had to have that sticker. Well, eventually all those stickers got sold out and they renewed it, I think, one or two more times, but eventually, they have phased all that out. So the stickers do you no good. If you're driving one person, one car, you got to ride over with everybody else and reserve that lane for, multi-passenger vehicles. The other thing, that he's going to have issues with that I'm just hearing today is that the Republican vote margin in the Congress is down basically to one vote difference. And that's he's not got a lock. They may be able to execute various executive actions,
Mhm.
but because the IRA and some of these bills were basically passed with Congress,
Right.
getting Congress to get a passable majority is becoming increasingly difficult. You have this most recently you have this Republican congresswoman who says I'm not going to caucus with them anymore. So now you're down with the 3 seats that got flipped in California from red to blue. You're down to only a 1-person voting margin on the Republican side of the House.
I checked a couple of days ago, and I thought that the Republicans still had 10 more seats in the
No,
House.
no,
No, yeah,
down
but
to
the
one.
thing is, it's not right to only vote with your party, right? So if I'm a congressman from Nebraska, is it my job to, and let's say I'm a Republican congressman, is it my job to only vote how the other Republicans want, or is it my job to vote for what I think is best for the state of Nebraska?
Hey, Nebraska. Well, that should be the choice. Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, because my voters elected me because I was going to do what they
Yeah.
felt was best for Nebraska. Now, America, I think that what's best for the overall country is probably second. Okay, but I think as the state's elected official, my responsibility would be to my own constituents,
Will be
right?
to the state, right?
And it should be, but inevitably, we both know that means that I'm going to vote that some road construction project gets approved in Vermont in exchange that somebody votes so that I can get some bridge put in here in Nebraska, right?
Repaired here, yeah, in Sarpy
And
County, right?
yeah, that one that's what
Yeah,
dropped 7 inches
yeah,
this
exactly.
past year over on Fort Crook.
Yeah,
Holy cow. I
yeah,
was like, I saw that and it's like the roads dropped that much.
right.
Wow.
Well, it's only the one lane.
Yeah,
Apparently,
one lane.
the other lane was a separate bridge, and it's okay, so they can still feed traffic through it. But the one they're banning traffic on the thing, which is a good thing. You don't want some
Right. No,
heavy
I
piece
get
of
that.
equipment rolling across it. So
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
It's I don't like this fact that we keep having things like the Inflation Reduction Act was only voted for by Democrats. Republicans didn't vote for it at all. There wasn't even a single vote for it.
yeah, but
And
all the benefits basically went to the
I'm not
red
denying
states.
that. I'm not
Yeah,
denying that. We have to look at the state of Georgia. And if you're Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, you have to go to bat for EVs. I
yeah,
mean, you have like 60, 70,000 new jobs as a result of car manufacturers and battery manufacturers putting significant billions and billions of dollars of
yeah,
investment for
yeah,
all the money that the IRA has put into various projects. It's returned something like about $8 more
yeah,
in private investment from
yeah.
companies like Hyundai, Toyota, other companies like that. I don't think Toyota may not have invested in Georgia. I know Hyundai did.
Yeah,
Toyota is in North Carolina.
most of their well, they have plants in
14
I
billion.
think in Kentucky and in Alabama, no Texas.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
Toyota did the battery facility in North
right.
Carolina.
Yeah,
Okay, but there's so much infrastructure going, or I shouldn't say infrastructure, so much in the way of new manufacturing going into the state of Georgia as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, nobody saw that coming. Half of all the jobs went to Georgia, and 90% of all the jobs went to red states.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine if somebody's the governor of those states that they're going to be
yeah, exactly.
support,
Which supports the argument is he's going to have a hard time selling, any of this. He can, maybe get people on board, like we say, to possibly, begin to scale back the incentives and things, maybe require more state investment participation in the NEVI system. But in fact, there's a bunch of headlines I've seen today, and I posted that basically talk about that. He can, the incoming administration can have all these great ideas, or however you want to classify them, stupid ideas. They can have, these proposals, but getting the support to get them through is going to be a hard sell.
Well, like I said, it depends on if it's benefiting somebody or not. We live in Nebraska, where just recently we passed 5,000 EVs in Omaha. Okay, and you just don't see them here like you do in other parts of the country.
Right.
You get out towards the coasts, EVs are far more common.
Yeah,
we're really far behind.
Go to Kansas, go to Missouri, Iowa. They're pretty much, we follow suit. It's a solid, very conservative, middle part of the country. So that's why we're always considered red.
Right.
Here, so.
No, I get that. But I don't know. I really wonder. I hear all of the talk about dismantling this and dismantling that, and I think it's going to have to be a lot more involved process, because like you were saying, I don't know enough about executive actions about what one can necessarily do with executive actions. I know they can't be adding spending, because Congress is responsible for spending, and so ultimately any changes you get, Congress has to go along with it. And we all know we've got some stupid stuff in the government. I saw something today that Congress just passed something making the bald eagle officially the U.S. bird, and I'm just like, hasn't it always been our official U.S. bird? And there's something that's called like the bald eagle bill, but somebody's saying it's got $200 billion in funding for Ukraine in it or something. It was called the bald eagle bill. I don't know if that's really true or not. I think that could have been conjecture, but I'm just like, we're glad, the government got something important done, right? Important issues.
You know what? The other elephant in the room we should be talking about?
What's that?
The drones.
Yeah, I've thought about talking about the drone thing. I mean, I'm really not sure.
Nobody knows. I mean, I've just, there's an article here, was it today or yesterday, talking about here are the 7, most, what's the word? I forget the word they use. But anyway, these were not plausible, but these were the 7 most discussed possible reasons why we're seeing drones, right? So you got,
it wasn't by the Babylon Bee, was it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was everything from a covert government action looking for hidden nuclear weapons, right,
Mm-hmm.
to their UFOs. So.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to fathom, some of this. To me, I suspect we really have a government agency doing something, testing something. I just can't imagine that it's private citizens, because they're claiming these are the size of a car.
Yeah.
It's not like a little tiny drone. These are
no.
Yeah, these are big drones.
I've got one upstairs that's like about that big, and as soon I lose sight of it, just flying it straight up, because I really can't
Mhm.
go outside my own property here. So I fly it
Right.
straight up, and about 200 feet, I lose sight of it.
Mhm.
So it's not the little tiny things. These are big, and they did catch some guys in I think it was Boston, who were flying a large commercial size, right, which probably measures 3-4 feet across. So they caught guys, doing that. But some of these things are just an example. There is a ATC, air traffic control audio, that goes on for about 25 minutes, where pilots in Oregon, everybody from a medevac helicopter crew to Alaskan airline pilots, reporting seeing this object moving at either supersonic or hypersonic speeds out to the ocean and back in a corkscrew pattern, just an orange, red, orange globe doing this. Now, that is, as far as I know, we don't have any drones that move at hypersonic speed and fly in a corkscrew manner. And these things were flying anywhere from 15,000 to 55,000 feet and doing it in seconds.
Yeah, it sounds like the aliens were drunk.
There, well, no, yeah. If you listen to 4chan and some of these guys, there are supposedly people that have had interviews with these creatures. So anyway, that's getting
Yeah,
completely
I
off the
suspect.
topic of
Yeah,
EVs, but
I get that, but I suspect a lot of these aliens that we see as UFOs and stuff, that they're probably, out drunk and goofing around. It's probably some teenage aliens out screwing around in their parents' spaceship, and wherever they're coming from, they're just
hey,
like, let's go play tricks on the humans.
let's go play tricks on the humans. Exactly. So
Yeah.
anyway, so the drone thing, that's kind of an interesting mystery, because pretty much all the drones that we're aware of are all electric powered, of course, with the
Right.
exception of the ones that we're seeing, in Ukraine and some of those where they're actually making drones out of, aircraft like a Cessna 150, right? And flying it hundreds of kilometers deep into Russia, and hitting, I think the most recent is they hit an ammo depot that basically muddy mushroom type cloud when the
Yeah,
ammo
I
depot
suppose.
blew up. So
What I've found most fascinating about this thing with the drone mystery is people said they've actually flown personal drones to try to go take a closer look at the drones,
right, yeah.
and they're saying that their batteries fail when they get close to the other drones.
Isn't that interesting? Because if we look at another phenomenon called crop circles, right?
Hmm.
And when you get into a crop circle and you try to film inside a crop circle, oftentimes, I don't know how frequent, what the percentage frequency is, but that will drain the batteries. And then you have the cases of, people driving their vehicles and suddenly the vehicles stop working,
Yeah.
because there's some object, light or whatever it was near them. So we're really into an interesting time here where we thought was science fiction, right, and just crazy stuff. And now we've got Congress holding hearings, right? There's a new term I learned. We got UFO, then we into UAP, and now we're at UAS.
Unidentified aerial
Systems.
Okay.
Yeah. Or unmanned systems. So, yeah.
Well, who knows? All right. Well, let's move on to a different topic.
Yeah, let's definitely.
I had
move on.
something I saw that I thought was interesting. It's the 10 longest range EVs currently on the market. Now, it did not include the Lucid Gravity, which I have an article about it and its range, but I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit because this is interesting because, people are always talking about, can we make, the cars have longer range? Well, here's where, when you start talking really long range, you start talking big bucks. Okay, so so number 10 was a Tesla Model X all-wheel drive, 335-mile range. So that was the 10th longest of the vehicles currently on the market. Starts out at right at $80,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Then above that was a Mercedes EQS SUV, 339 miles. So 4 miles more. Starts at about 105,000. Okay. Now,
So
then we
so
had
what?
the
So we're going from what, $25,000 for 4 miles extra range?
yeah, about that. Yeah, if that was what we were comparing. Well, then at the same price, we have the EQS sedan from
Right.
Mercedes with
Right.
352 miles. Now it got another 13 miles of range, but it's still $105,000 to
Yeah.
start. Now here this is the bargain unit. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 has a 361-mile range, and they start at 37,500. That was by far the most affordable on the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Model 3 long range rear wheel drive. So Tesla, normally the long range is usually an all wheel drive, but they have a rear wheel drive model that starts at 42.5,
Okay.
and that had 363 miles of range. Now I know there's also a Model Y rear wheel drive long range. They only sell in Europe. They don't sell in the United States, and it didn't make the list probably because it's not sold in the US.
Yeah.
Um, then the next one was the Model S all-wheel drive, 402 miles. So it's the first one that breaks 400, and it started at 75,000. And that's also the cheapest 400-mile range
Okay.
vehicle.
Yeah.
So at 400-mile range, you're starting at $75,000. Okay. Rivian R1S Dual Max, 410 miles, starting at $90,000. That's the SUV. Then the R1T, the truck, Dual Max, 420 miles. So we get a little bit more, 420 miles on this truck for $94,000. Not done with trucks though.
Hmm.
Chevy Silverado first edition RST EV, 440 miles.
Wow.
And it starts at 96,000. Now what's
Yeah.
interesting is that's also the leader in towing. Okay, that's
Right.
the EV leader in
Right.
towing as well. Of course, that wasn't part of this article, but then the number one is a Lucid Air Grand Touring, 516 miles, and that can be gotten for $111,000. That's the only one
Hey.
that was over 500 miles.
Right.
But that is a lot of range. Now, like you and I've talked about before, what we consider the bathroom distance is probably 200 miles max.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you've got other issues other than needing to stop and
Well, I mean,
charge.
yeah, you think about it. So the one car, that 300-mile one, that would take us basically to Davenport, right? We could drive all the way
Yeah,
across Iowa and a fair share of Nebraska if we went the other direction. With the 500-mile range, you could get pretty darn close to Denver from where we are right here in Omaha. So
yeah.
that's
Most
or
charging is what you figure about a minute for adding about 5 miles of range. um well, you can get more than that, maybe 10 miles of range per minute. Most chargers, depending on the situation, the car, all of these
right.
cars are going to charge pretty fast. Okay. I think even the Ioniq 6 probably does not have terrible charging speeds. It's not
Yeah.
like the Chevy Bolt, which really charges slow, or the Nissan Leaf. I mean, there's a few of your cheaper EVs that don't
Yeah.
charge
Yeah.
fast at a.
And the early generation, right?
Mhm.
Because we're still. I mean, one of the things we could talk about is the fact that there's articles coming. The Stanford research, for example, showing that the EPA and even the car makers have been not testing batteries correctly, right? And so the range of the vehicles in terms of operational life and in terms of just driving around on a daily basis, we're finding that those batteries are lasting much longer. I think it was, what was the numbers? I think 18%, something like that, longer range than what um, they had using conventional car range testing technology, used to determine the EPA mileage of a gasoline car. they've been using that same technology, and that is not resulting in accurate. It's been underestimating the capacity of those and abilities of those batteries in an EV. So we've, that just we're learning. It's taking us, a time back when the Volt came out, or back when the Nissan, the first Nissan Leafs came out. That was state of the art, but we've learned so much since then, and we're continuing to learn things as we move forward. Uh-oh, are you still there? Okay,
yeah, I'm still here. I just noticing that one of my whiskey bottles, that the amount in it went down while I was gone.
Uh-oh. Behind your head there?
Yeah. So one of them,
one of the kids.
One of the kids had a few drinks out of this one up here, which it's really excellent. It's possibly the best whiskey ever made. It's about a $300 bottle.
Can we get those guys as advertisers?
Oh, they're not really producing it. It's like a private deal.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. Well, I thought this with the range was really quite interesting to see that out of all of the vehicles, only the Model 3 and the Ioniq 6 were under 50,000. Everything else with a lot of range, and that's part of the thing. People have asked Musk, why can't make a car with longer range? Like, well, I could stick a bigger battery in there, but the battery is the big cost on the car.
Yep.
40%,
and 40% of the cost of the car is the battery.
And at what point is it really useful? Hey, let's talk about the Fiat 500e deal in Colorado. So there is a Fiat dealer in Colorado, and this only applies if you live in Colorado. But you can get a Fiat 500e electric car zero down. You have to pay sales tax. Right. Which is I think about $1,200 or something like that. But it says zero down, zero monthly lease for was it like 2.5 years?
Yeah, 27 months. Yeah,
27 months, and you can drive it 10,000 miles a year. I think it was.
Yep.
And that's it. You just got to pay the $1,200. There's some costs. $1,200 up front, and you got a 500e for 27 months.
Now, that being said, when I posted this, one of our listeners came in who apparently lives in Denver.
Yeah.
Went over to the dealership and found out that there are some questionable add-ons. I think he said they totaled something like $1,800 that they were sticking on this thing. Now, whether that's the sales tax part he was talking about, or whether that's the sales tax and the stuff that gets invented, to go on the tab.
Well, that could be like a $60 a month lease payment.
Yeah.
Well, remember a while back we saw this thing where France was going to subsidize some cheap Renaults, like $20,000 Renaults, where basically people could lease one of them for about the equivalent of about $50 a month.
Oh yeah,
$50-$60. It was really cheap, and it was. I thought that was decent. The problem you get is that there's a lot of these crazy deals on leases on EVs that are really cheap. But if somebody's really low income, they're probably not going to qualify credit wise. Yeah, and so they really can't take advantage of a lot of these opportunities that are on there for the new EVs.
Yeah, I think I posted something here a week or two ago where there are like 3 EVs now that you can lease for under $200, something like that.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really an impressive cost for a vehicle. So you're saving on gas, you're saving on the payment.
Yep.
It's tough. It's tough to keep a car below about $700 a month. I remember we reported on this a while back that the average cost of a new vehicle or whatever in the United States, that when you added in operating costs, like gas, maintenance, insurance, it was like almost $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the average car. That wasn't like the cheapest car. The cheapest one you could probably get it between $700-$800 a month. But it's really hard to push that. I mean, because you're going to have a couple $100 for gas. If you have an EV, you can push that down to about $50 in electricity. And
in fact, there's been a rash. I don't know. That's not a good word. That sounds bad. There has been a number of articles, I'll just put it that way, coming out where people are reporting the costs of their EVs and how surprised they are by how cheap it is.
Yeah.
Compared to when they had their gas cars, and now they have electrics, and they're amazed, and obviously pleased that it's costing them so much less, to drive those vehicles. So, that's
No,
what I find.
it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's move on to, we had an article shared with us by somebody over at OPPD, and it's about solar paint. So Mercedes is experimenting with solar paint as opposed to solar panels on the cars, all over the exterior of the car with this paint coating. So whether driving or parked, the paint could harvest energy from the sun. And it sounds, it sounds pretty fanciful, but I guess there's a way to make it so that it could share it all into some kind of energy collection points to be able to pull the energy in.
How they have that wired, and obviously there's a controlling circuitry that's involved, and that has to go into batteries. And I think if I remember from that article, that paint added, what was it, 5 miles a day, something like that. I mean, it
was more than that. It was more than that. But it wasn't
very much.
Astronomical. It was they said on average it'd probably be around 10 miles per day, but it could potentially add 7,400. Oh, it was showing, it looks like 20 miles per day, 7,400 miles per year. It said if you were in a very sunny climate, it could add almost 40 miles per day.
Morocco or something
like
that.
If you were really, but in reality, 7,400 miles per year, if the average EV is only driven like 8,000 miles, that would cover most of your mileage. But this is very similar along the lines, of what we've looked at with Aptera, right? We've loved the whole Aptera idea. And in Aptera, if Mercedes brings this to market before Aptera comes to market, that's not going to bode well for the whole.
We'll see. We'll see how.
I don't know. It's like I've told you, some of the other technology I've looked at in the EV space and I've tried to help out with. I've told some of the guys like, hey, I think this is going to be obsolete by the time you get it to market.
Yeah.
Because battery technology keeps improving, and the cost of these batteries, like we were showing how expensive these long range cars are, but as battery costs keep coming down, you're going to see more and more bargains in that space. But on the flip side, if you have a 500 mile range battery and you have to charge 400 miles on it, you're going to be sitting at that charger for a while, compared to, somebody who's only charging it up a couple hundred miles. I'm just, you look at it either way. I don't know.
In practical terms, you are going with a 500-mile range car for those odd times when you have to drive from Omaha to Chicago, right? I mean, there are people that have to, every now and then, have to do that for whatever reason. Then you're going to stop along the way a couple times and recharge, and you're going to take you, maybe it adds an hour and a half, 2 hours to your trip. But then you still have to stop and eat. You still have to do the potty stops, right? Just get out and stretch. But most of the time, probably 80, 90% of the time, that 500 miles will let you drive for a week, maybe more.
Oh yeah, probably a lot more. I mean, most people don't drive 1,000 miles a month.
No.
So, you'd be talking about the 500 miles range on the Lucid might let you drive for 2 weeks without charging. And, if you're going to have that Lucid, you're going to own a house and you're going to be charging it at home anyways, But back to the solar paint. So it has nanoparticles. So it was saying, the article was saying that the average human hair is like 100 microns thick or something like that,
Mhm.
and said this paint is like 5 microns thick. And man, it just seems crazy to
Yeah.
think that it gets that thin. But it'd be connected by wiring to a power converter that sits by the battery that feed directly into the high voltage battery. In Stuttgart, Germany, where Mercedes-Benz is headquartered, automaker says the average driver travels 32 miles a day. Around 62% of that need could be covered by solar energy, 20 miles, through this technology. For drivers in places like LA, the solar paint could cover 100% of their driving needs.
Oh yeah.
Any,
Yeah,
yeah,
Northern Europe is not a solar hotbed, right?
all right, let's carry this a little too far. So they also added, Mercedes added, the extra energy could be used via bidirectional charging to power someone's home. It's like, but you're not putting a whole lot of juice there, you know,
No,
for that. You're
no.
talking about getting 10, 10 to 15
Yeah.
kilowatt hours max per day.
The rider's just being a little bit fanciful.
Yeah. Let's say you kick that 5 kilowatt hours back to the grid and they gave you 4 cents a kilowatt for it.
Right, exactly.
That getting that
Yeah,
20 cents,
right.
an extra.
That'll
Now, if you
that'll
used
that'll
it,
really
if you
that'll
used it in
really
your
help on
house,
my yeah, that'll really help on
yeah,
my monthly payment. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah. But unlike typical solar panels, doesn't include any rare earth metals, silicon, or other exotic materials. I'm sorry, not exotic, toxic materials. This makes
Okay.
it easier to recycle. Mercedes is already researching how to make it easy and affordable to repair. If my car has a scratch, then the door panel is probably broken down. So we've made our precautions. We usually say that we have countermeasures for that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Um, with the EVs covered in solar paint, there wouldn't be as much concern about charging networks or the need for people to install chargers at their home. And I don't know about all that. I think,
Yeah.
that's
Exactly.
still
A
a
little
little
fanciful.
off. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little much in
Well,
my mind. But
I keep coming across stories that talk about the advances that are being made in solar technology, where it's having a dramatic improvement over the technology that we have today. Um,
you think about this. What is the most significant electricity user in your house? What item?
oh, let's see. I would say probably not the refrigerator, but I would get my electric stove,
Oh, I was going
hot,
to say air
hot
conditioning.
water heater, air conditioner. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had an electric hot water heater or whatever. But I mean, this paint effectively is almost as much juice as you would use for either an electric hot water heater.
Yeah.
It's close. It's close. It's not quite. It'd be about 75% of what an electric hot water heater uses, and it'd be
Yeah.
close. Kind of about the same thing as what one's air conditioner would use each year.
So wouldn't it make more sense rather than put it on a car, you put it on roofing tiles?
Well, I think that's a smart thing too. I'm sure we're
Yeah.
going to see more and more of that. It's just an interesting concept for you know trying to solve some of the challenges with just
Right.
EVs
Right.
in general. And
Yep.
and once again, this is Mercedes we're talking about. This isn't like you know some Shenzhen garage and EV battery maker kind of thing where
Right.
somebody that
Although
somebody
they,
on
yeah,
I was
I
going to
was
say
going to say,
somebody on Chinese Craigslist decided to make some batteries and start
yeah,
selling them.
right, exactly. But that being said, there are some amazing breakthroughs that are coming out of the Chinese research labs. Amazing stuff.
I get that, but
Yeah.
Mike and I talk about this a lot. It's one thing to have a great idea, but you have to be able to raise the money for it. You have to be able to execute it,
Yep.
and it's those. And
And
if
and given China's current economic issues,
Hmm.
That's becoming increasingly problematic. I think what was I saw that I don't remember exact percentage, but there's a significant percentage of Chinese businesses that are selling goods for less than it costs to make them.
Mm.
And this is becoming the Chinese economy is having some, and it's not just from one observer that I tend to follow. It's coming from several different observers that I follow, that they're having some serious economic issues over there right now. And then of course you have the Russians, which is that whole thing's a mess now.
Mhm.
So interestingly, the people that we've looked at as our global challengers are having some really serious challenges being put to them. So that I think that bodes well for the West and particularly for the United States.
No, I get it, but you know what I'm saying. Just because somebody in China has a good idea doesn't mean the government's going to support them.
Oh no, 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 no.
Yeah, and
Well, this is part of the
I,
problem is the local governments are the ones that call a lot of the shots over there for this type of
yeah,
thing. That's why there's
I get that.
so many car makers in China. What, 200 car makers? You
Yeah,
know?
but see, here's one of the things that comes up to being a problem. If the people who came up with the great idea haven't done it before, or they haven't executed a idea, business, something before, so they have a track record, it's really
Mhm.
hard for them to get the investment into their
Well,
idea.
I'm in that
And it's that way
category.
here in the US, stuff like that. Lots of people have great ideas, but
Oh yeah.
without some track record showing that they can
Yep.
execute the idea, um, it's really hard to get
Yeah.
people to invest money in the concept. But with this idea is Mercedes, okay? And
Mhm.
so if Mercedes decides they want to do this,
There's a very good
and
chance something's going to happen. Yeah, I
yeah,
see your point.
yeah. So that
I've
I
had
like that. I think
I've
that.
had great ideas,
Mhm.
groundbreaking ideas. You know, I'm
All
I'm
right.
not I'm not worth what my ideas are worth, or maybe I am worth what my ideas are worth.
There you go. Let's see here. All right. The electric crossover with the longest autonomous range is an article that we
That
had.
Yeah, that
I
one
don't know why they
confused.
said autonomous.
Exactly. And that's why the headline that I wrote for them to post on the website is I limited that word autonomous because there is nothing in that article that says anything about autonomy, self-driving.
Okay. And I'm wondering if that was a error in translation. This is it came from a Bulgarian news source.
Bulgarian news source. Yeah.
Yeah, .bg.
Yeah.
So because Belgium is .be.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, they're announcing. So they previously had announced a 700-kilometer range. They changed that to 724 kilometers, and let me see. I'm trying to think here. That's damn close to 500 miles.
But remember,
Um,
that's probably on the European drive cycle, which is a
or
much
maybe it's not.
more liberal, mileage rating than what we have over here.
Yeah. Let's see. I was going to say that 724 is probably about 435 miles, probably. Still,
Well,
that's pretty damn good range for a
oh yeah, still, I'm not
SUV.
nothing to sneeze at. A guy whose car, let's see, in this cold weather, I had it charging, and when I looked at it, it was 70 miles. Of course, I'd been running the heater, and that always adjusts the algorithm. So,
Yeah. So, it's going to start out at around $80,000 for the touring trim. Now, my
mm,
understanding was the Gravity was going to have a less expensive model, but maybe this is what you have to pay to be able to get, the range. Anyways, let's see what we've got here. Let's look at. I had this article talking about Tesla races towards a $2 trillion market cap. Now, I'm pretty sure that haven't they been there before? I mean,
I
they were at
I
a much higher price at one time. Tesla shares are up 86% so far this year, and most of that run up's been since the election.
Yeah,
Okay.
60% of it was that I read was since the election. And he spent let's see, I think it said he spent 200 and I'm gonna something like $275 million total
Hmm.
on the election, and increased the value of his company by, what was it, 200 and some billion. So
Yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
I guess that's a
Money well
smart
spent.
smart investment, I guess.
A
We'll
thousand to one.
we'll see how it pays out for the nation as a whole. I
Yeah.
also let me point out that there's a lot of talk about Doge,
Hmm.
Department of what, Government Efficiency or something like that.
Yeah, Department of Government Efficiency.
It is not a department. It is not even a real thing. It is an advisory board. It is not a department. It's just, again, hype. So when you see this Doge, in the department, no, it is not. So let's get that
No,
straight.
what didn't the Doge like the ruler of like the city of Venice or something like that?
No, yeah, Venice. So yeah, it
The
was those
Venetians, yeah,
when it was, these are Italian city states, right? And they're all vying against
yeah,
each other, and they were all vying for the Pope, right?
right,
And so yeah, so the ruler of Venice was the official title was the Doge, right?
right,
Um,
and I'm sure they're playing off of that. So
that yeah, or the Doge. I'm
yeah, the
thinking more
crypto
of the
coin,
Doge crypto coin, of which
yeah,
Musk is heavily involved. So
yeah. I've found that just funny. So right now, Tesla is sitting at a market cap of just over $1.5 trillion, and
more
I
than
wanted to.
any of the competitors on mainstream OEM, Fords and General Motors and Toyotas and all those guys
Yeah, my understanding is that Tesla's market cap is almost the same as all the other car manufacturers
put
combined.
together. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
I
something like
remember.
five. I think it's something like 5 times what the industry average is.
Yeah. So at one time early on, I think Mercedes bought into Tesla a little bit and then sold off their
Right.
ownership.
Yeah.
And
In the very early ages, about, God, when was that? That was sometime in the latter part of the aughts. They stepped in and I forget. I think it was a 10% investment, something like that
Mhm.
that they had. And
For
of
a
course,
while. Hmm.
right, for a while, yeah. And
I can.
that helped them get through. Built them to where they are.
I remember 4 or 5 years ago there was talk that Musk should buy Mercedes because he was worth about 10 times what they were.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would have kind of made sense, if you started combining those two, because you have one of the original mass market auto manufacturers in the world, and
The original auto manufacturer.
yeah, yeah, and you combine that with Tesla. I just thought that it would have been a pretty decent thing, and I think he could have supported the brand.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah, I don't know what he would have done with the brand, given
yeah,
what he did with, Twitter. So,
yeah. Well, everybody has their opinion, right? Yeah, yeah. So Rivian is currently at a $15 billion market cap, 1% of what Tesla
Tesla.
is at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rivian is sitting at well, right now at this particular moment, it's at like 1480, and um, that's far lower than it's been in the past, but it's a huge uptick from where it was, say, 6 months ago when it was at $10.
Yeah. When I
And it wasn't
bought
even that long ago.
it.
Wasn't even that long ago. It was at
Yeah.
that where it was
I'd,
at
I'd, I'd
ten
like to,
bucks back in November.
yeah, I would like to thank Rivian because I finally made some money on a stock. Thank
There
you.
you go. There you go. We need to get Adib back on here and really get through this because man, you know, it's been interesting. He gave good
Good
advice
advice.
on here. At some point he'll come back, but we've been trying to figure out, we might change to a different format. We might just do Twitter Spaces
Okay.
as opposed to doing some of the other where it's just audio. But anyways, it's been great seeing it. But one of the things is he's bouncing back and forth between countries, and he doesn't feel he has a good setup to,
He
you know.
is, just for people who aren't aware, he's a gentleman that Dave has interviewed in the past, has a a guest co-host, and they talk
Mhm.
about investment, and he's fairly knowledgeable in that particular arena, unlike moi.
Well, Adib's a savant.
Yeah.
So I mean, he really is. For a guy in his 20s, he's been. I've seen the numbers. He's done insanely well for a
Yeah.
guy in his 20s. Okay. Um, anyways, um, but it's interesting to see these market caps, and it's nice to see it getting exciting now. To be fair, the S&P 500 is up 27% this year. Okay, but when we see something like Tesla is a big part of that. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. In
and
fact, I saw a forecast that the Nasdaq is going to go to 25,000, and of course that means nothing to me. So I had to ask my friendly AI, "Well, where's the Nasdaq at right now?" And it's just over, and it's been hovering right around 20,000. So going up, 25,000. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
yep, yep. Let's see here. Wanted to talk a little bit about um, Rivian and Consumer Reports. Now, Consumer Reports is not been really that favorable towards EVs in general, right? But they are showing Rivian has the most satisfied owners.
Yeah.
Now, here's one thing though. You got to take this with a grain of salt too, right? Um, if you're spending $90,000 to $100,000 on a car,
Are you
you
going
probably
to
have pretty big
question
expectation.
Yeah, are you going to question your own wisdom of spending that level of money? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different, you know, I don't know. It's a different showcase or example of somebody buying cars, and um, 86% of buyers said they'd buy Rivian again. It's really fascinating. I saw some report about a week or so ago talking about how, what was it? It was 90 something percent of EV owners won't go back.
Oh
But
yeah,
then people always want to throw up that one article about people who were trading in their EV at a car dealership in the United States
nah.
that, um, 40, only 47% of them were
Yeah,
buying an EV.
this was
Again,
What was the size of that survey? I think this
it was
particular
tiny.
survey was something like, was it like 20,000 people? I mean, don't hold me to that number. My rusty, but it's a significantly sized survey globally of
Mhm.
EV owners that came back, and the result was over 90% of them said, "Oh no, we ain't going back. We like our EVs and we're staying with them."
Yeah. So on this Consumer Reports for 2023 and 24, the same top five brands were there. It was BMW, Tesla, Porsche, Lexus, and Rivian. So
Yep.
two EV only manufacturers are
Yep.
in that
Yep.
top five.
Yep.
And but when people drive a Tesla, they're driving it for the technology. It's a different reason that people, you know, may be driving those versus a lot of other cars. I had one final thing I wanted to cover, and this
Okay.
was kind of a different kind of topic. This was like painting a futuristic scenario of way in the future in 2030, which is only 6 years away.
Yeah. Way.
Um, and we're in Detroit, okay? And Detroit needs a bailout. And I thought this was kind of funny because somebody put an apocalyptic scene. But these are all older cars. These aren't modern cars here in derelict Detroit. But it's saying, while China and Tesla raced forward to create clean transport, Detroit faltered, sought political protection. The big three focused on large SUVs and pickups, protected by a 25% import tariff on similar vehicles. This is what they call it, the chicken truck tax or something like that keeps foreign trucks
Right.
out of the U.S.
Was
And
it 1970s or something like that?
it was in the 90s, in the late
The
90s, I
90s?
think.
Oh, I thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah, I think so, because I remember in the 90s there was a lot of, especially small Toyota and Nissan pickups. They were running around. This was the early 90s, like 92, 93, 94. There were still a lot of those.
Didn't keep them out because we got look at how many Toyota, in fact.
Yeah, but those Toyotas you see now, they're all made in the United States. Those pickup trucks,
the Tacomas,
the Tacomas and the Tundras are made in the United States, and it's just like the Nissan Titan is made in outside of Nashville.
Yeah. Okay.
But the EPA footprint rule allowing lower CAFE, and that's the CAFE thing is the deal where they pay money to Tesla, right, for trading for credits.
Well, I don't know how active that is at the moment, but that was the original idea.
Yeah, and then the exemption from the gas guzzler tax for the big three.
Yeah.
These laws gave good profits, but left Detroit unprepared. Dealers fought against EVs because EVs need little service, thus eliminating the primary source of dealer profits. The big three leadership incentives were short-term, with few rewards for readying their companies for an electric future. And the UAW fought to continue large gas SUVs and pickup trucks because of their higher labor content. China committed to EVs both to solve their urban pollution problems and to export EVs to the world, knowing that traditional car companies would be slow to embrace EVs. In 2024, the White House put 100% duty on any Chinese EVs, eliminating any incentive for Detroit to electrify quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting to see this. And you do know, I mean, we see this. We see this because we see the writing on the wall of where EVs are going and all that. And you see all these people, but it's always these guys at the car dealerships trying to say that nobody wants EVs. Well, that's because people aren't going to your dealerships looking for EVs.
Because there aren't
they're sourcing them. Yeah, but they're sourcing them separately.
Although that being said, one of the big successes most recently is the Honda Prologue.
Yes, it's done well.
It's doing really well. In fact, it's doing so well that just up here, half a block away, my neighbor just bought one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we now have at least two EVs in the neighborhood, and if that Hyundai EV9 or whatever down this way, if that was their car, then we got three in the neighborhood. But I haven't seen it there recently, so it may not have been their car. We're getting there.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see.
Hey, just a quick note to Oasis Amps there. You'd like Adib's opinions on crypto. I don't know if she obviously probably aware of it, but apparently it says here that XRP Ripple is skyrocketing today.
Yeah, I'm looking.
No clue.
So I'm in Adib's private trading group.
Okay.
And so I'm actually looking, and they're trading XRP today in the group, but they do a lot of short-term trades.
Okay.
So they'll be in a lot of trades for hours or days.
Oh, okay. All right. So
yeah, no,
basically
they'll day trade or swing trade on most other. He doesn't day trade on stocks. He'll swing trade, which means the difference between day trading and swing trading, you have to have a special account set up to day trade. Swing trading means you're in the account or in the trade for at least 24 hours. Okay. And that could be anything from a few hours, but the intent is in swing trading not to hold whatever it is for years or anything like that.
Hey, I want to take that $120 profit that I
Yeah, let
made
it
from
ride.
Rivian and put it on something. So if you get a chance, ask Adib what in the renewable energy, solar, wind, EV space, where should I put that $120? Penny stock, obviously.
Oh, he won't touch penny stocks.
Oh, he won't touch. Oh, wow. Dang.
Uh-uh. No,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay.
He won't in the stock market, and the same thing with crypto. There has to be enough volume that nobody can manipulate it.
Okay. I understood. Good point.
So it's really easy to manipulate a lot of things. And so that's one of the reasons why he is really anti-Chinese stocks. So like he doesn't like, we can love what Neo's doing, right? And we can
Right.
love what BYD is doing, but
Right.
there's, you know, the influence of the Chinese government on those. And so that doesn't make it for natural market conditions. And
Right.
he's really good at, reading the trends on the trend lines and following. And that's where he's done really well. He's done well both in up markets and down markets. And I could, Bobby, I could talk to you separately about that. But yeah, that's a completely different topic. Anyways, that was all we had to cover for the day. We actually went a whole hour, but we hadn't.
Sounds
Bill and I
good.
hadn't been on for 2 weeks, so
Right.
we had a little bit more to talk about today. Anyways, I'll be back with Mike tomorrow and Bill on Thursday. Otherwise, thanks for watching in.